Hey, this is David Mansour with Closing Time Podcast, and welcome. It is a beautiful Monday. Kids are back in school.
Yes, they are.
I'm not supposed to date these things. I think somebody read that somewhere. You're not supposed to say the date because then it dates it. But
You speak the truth. They're in school.
it's the year 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is lingering out there somewhere, hopefully I'm still around. But I'm here with Mr. Joe Campbell, and oddly, we don't know each other. I'd have to say at all. We just met, but we're going to dive into how we met and how we have so much in common, and that's what we're going to talk about. So our kids are in Boy Scouts together.
They are. They are.
If you know me, y'all know that that's a passion of mine now. I might even try to explain why it's a passion of mine because I'd love your input on it. But it's also running for city council, and we're going to talk about that very briefly. We kind of want to hear about the scout part of it first. So
Yeah.
welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So let's talk about scouts. Yeah, I skipped my game. We're going straight to
Okay.
it. We might come back to it.
All right.
So I never did Boy Scouts as a kid.
Neither did I.
So you didn't do it either.
No.
But did you have a uniform on the other night when I met you?
Yeah, because, and that's the other part of the story, is our friend Jason Lachlan sucked me into being an assistant den leader, and now I just got word last week that my application was accepted to be assistant scoutmaster. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
They've been asking me to wear the uniform. I guess
Why
now
not?
all adults have to do the course, what's it called?
The YPT training?
Yes, the YPT training.
Yours is due, by the way.
How do you know that too? Jason just texted me. He was like, I think mine expired like this week
Yeah, mine too.
or something. So anyway, there's a lot of training. They basically, whatever they require of a minimum payment, like for husband and wife, the husband or the wife, because we do have moms that come on these camping trips. But if the husband goes on all the camping trips and he fills out all the paperwork and does the YPT training, the mom actually cannot even go to the camping trip, correct? If she does not take the YPT training.
You got to have the training.
Right. So if anyone that's an adult, a sibling can go, but is it 18?
I believe it's 18. And unless, I think they can go, but you can't really be involved with what the scouts are doing. Like, I know some of them, the parents have to sleep over here and put their tents up over here. I was just at scout camp a couple of weeks ago with the crew, and we were within the camp of the kids, but part of it's because I've got the training and stuff to be there.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by in the camp, because these are some of the things that Max's mom really loved hearing from me, was that, because I think there's only been one camp out he went by himself, and she was like, hey, can you make sure that Max sleeps with another kid and not this dad? Because he was riding with another dad. She didn't know.
Oh, okay.
She assumed they might be sharing a tent or whatever. And I said, no, Max can't even share a tent with me.
Nope.
His father, I can't even have my own child in a tent because, and we're talking Boy Scouts, which is different than Cub Scouts.
Very different from
For anybody that doesn't know. Cub Scouts, the parents come.
Right.
Is it the training the same for Cub Scouts?
It's very similar. The YPT, the youth protection training, is pretty much the same.
So they just upped it, and I just don't remember, or did I just take it so long ago in Cub Scouts?
It's like every 5 years or something like that. You've got to re-up it.
Okay.
It's different now, too. It's called something different now.
So, again, like I know for Jason, for ours, the parents are always, all adults are always separate. We're in the same campground.
Yes.
But he always picks a line, whatever that is. All right, here's the pavilion where we're eating food. All kids are on that side, all adults are on the other.
Yep.
And the precision, I don't know if all scout leaders do that, but the precision that Jason emphasizes that and draws that line and insists on some of these rules that a lot of us think, maybe we don't know anybody, but he just insists that we adhere to these laws.
I think that's the way it's supposed to be, and that was one of the big weirdest transitions for me coming from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts. I'm used to just getting there and helping out. We had these troop meetings up at the lodge up there, and I'm helping set up the chairs and all that stuff. And one of the first meetings when we came to Troop 175, he's like, "You got to let the boys do this." Yeah. I'm like, "Oh." And then we went on a camping trip, and I'm there to try to help. You got to let the boys set up the tent. They got to do this. That's their. And so as I went through the training for Scoutmaster, you start seeing, oh, okay, these guys are supposed to be making up the agenda for all the meetings. They're supposed to have their own. I mean, probably even more than we do on our own. But I think what he's trying to do is get them to stick to the heart of what Boy Scouts about, and that is these guys are running the show. We're there to support. We're there to make sure they help them make the right decisions, but they're running the show.
Yeah, and I guess this is my sales pitch, and this is why I love Scouts. And I understand if you've got a soccer player, he's in the travel or baseball or whatever. But we have some of those. We have travel sports, and we have a meeting every week, and you don't have to come to it. But what Scouts does, I think in my head, I always thought Scouts was just somewhere you went, you learn how to tie a knot, whatever. But I absolutely love, like what you said, that they're like, when we get there, these kids have to unload this truck of these big tents and poles and tables, and they have to do it all set up. So it's kind of like Lord of the Flies, with adults kind of standing in the back. But I absolutely love that. And my favorite part of Scouts is the board of reviews. Absolutely love that. And so for anybody that doesn't know what a board of review is, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but so whenever they're trying to achieve a new rank, they sit in front of 3 adult leaders, and we question them about what their experience was during that past thing, what they achieved, kind of make sure that, you know, all the things that they were achieved, that they did and they learned, and, you know, find out their good experiences from it.
The whole point is that they learn something, and really a goal that they're trying to reach to get that new rank.
Right.
That's the goal, and make sure they're doing the pieces they need to do to get there.
Yeah. And I know there's some discussion on whether officially it is, you know, we're not supposed to be interviewing them or coming down hard on them, but these kids take it like it's a college entrance exam. They come in there shaking. And to see a 12-year-old come in for their first rank and walk out crying, and I'm not saying that lightly like it's mean, but it is awesome, because a year later, they're in that meeting with their chest high, they're answering questions, they're making eye contact. So I guarantee you, every kid in that room, and my kid, I am not nervous about his first job interview.
No, and I think that's what how you have to look at it. Those who haven't been in Scouts or had that experience, you think about that very first job interview you had, whether you're in high school or college or before. It's rough because you don't know what to expect. You've never done that before. And, parents try to help coach the kids, I think, in some ways. But yeah, that first time you go in and you're talking to some adults, and they're asking you questions that you probably know the answer to, but you're just like, you're freezing up. So yeah, I could see that. My kid hasn't done it yet. He's getting there, but I don't know how he's going to react that first time.
It's incredible, the transformation. I mean, they literally, I would say 9 out of 10 walk out crying. Because of the level of stress. We don't yell at them, we just go, so what was that? What's the Scout oath? And under that pressure, they might not have prepared, or they might be too nervous. And we present it as a pass or fail, but we don't fail them if they have achieved all the things they're supposed to. It's kind of just like a little bitty review, like a formal review. And it's
something they need to get used to.
And it applies. I just absolutely love that as far as preparing the kids for the future.
That's great.
So let's back up to tell me about your family and how you got into Scouts.
What's weird is, because I've camped almost all my life. I was in foster care for a long time when I was younger, but even one of the foster, there was a couple different homes, and one of the foster homes, that was a big deal for them. And it was in Wyoming, and going camping up in Yellowstone was the thing. That's
nice
what you did.
Camping.
And you need not a ton of money, but it's right there. It's 2 hours, 3 hours away. You go up and you do that. It's fun. So, and then when I got adopted, the family that I got adopted in loved camping. In fact, we had a cabin up near the Wind River Range, which is close to the Rocky Mountains. And so we would spend time in a cabin. We'd also go up to Yellowstone and Jackson Hole and camp. So growing up, that was just something I did and learned and loved to do. And then I think because the transition from being in foster care and then adoption, Scouts never came into the picture in that aspect. When I got older, and I have 2 boys. I have an older boy who's at Kennesaw State now, and I've got a young one that's in Booth right now who's Scouts with your son. My oldest one tried it for a year, and it wasn't his thing. He got into soccer, which was great. With Grant, at that age, we were trying to figure out what it is he was going to get interested in, and Scouts was one of those things that popped up. So I said, let's try it for a year. He said, okay. And I think within the first 2 or 3 months, I'm like, what do you think? Are we going to stick with it? Dad, I'm going to be an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
And his commitment at that time became a commitment for me, and I love it. I love going scouting trips with him. I love doing the projects with him. Like I said, Jason sucked me into being assistant den leader.
Yeah.
I actually really loved doing that a lot. And when it came time to move up to Boy Scouts, and again, Grant was 100% ready to go, Jason again is like, you should be assistant scout master because you keep doing all this stuff with the kids and stuff. I'm like, let's do it. And so that's where I am. And so I'm trying to match the passion of Grant, because Grant is the one who's driving this mostly. I'm having a great time doing it though.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to check the camera just to make sure, 'cause this is about where I get nervous that the recording is not happening. It is rolling perfect. So for Max, and this goes for any parent that does Tri-Scouts, or like his whole first year, so sixth grade is when you move to Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole first year, he loved it when he was there, but it was almost when he had to get ready, or the thought, or if I asked him if he wanted to go on his camp out, no, I don't want to do it. But then we, like, kind of like what you said, we met somebody at the airport, and me and him were just talking about something we had to do for Scouts. They overheard it, and they walked up and was like, that was the best time of our lives. I miss my kids. He's an Eagle Scout. You've got to stick with it because it's going to do this. And that lit the fire for Max.
Yeah.
Ever since then, he's all in and loves it.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
That's
And I don't know that I don't know that it fits his personality perfect either. Like, it's not like he's I don't think anybody would ever pin him as a scout, which is weird. But he just loves the responsibility, loves the things he's learning.
And then that may fall into, because I kind of think that about Grant as well. Grant he's very intellectual in a lot of things, and so he's not into a lot of sports or anything like that. But he loves the outdoors part of this, and he loves the hikes. He loves all that stuff. And I think what it is some people go into looking at Scouts as, oh, they're camping and, like you said, making knots and doing that type of stuff. But when you look at the merit badges and the volume of merit badges that go from aviation to space exploration to cooking to, it's more than just pitching tents and tying knots. And I think as Grant has gone into seeing what's more and more available, and we've reviewed this all these patches and things that you can get, it's like, wow, okay, there's so much to do. I don't know if I have enough time to do all the stuff I want to do.
Yeah. And the cool thing somebody else explained was, with the badges, they're getting to learn about things that could be potential careers.
Absolutely.
Without having to go full into it. And they can find out. One of the badges is, I don't think it's called policing or whatever, but law enforcement it might be. But they have to interview police officers and talk about traffic plans. Mm-hmm. And there's a law where he had to have met with a attorney and talked about all different aspects of that.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, all the STEM type of things.
Yep.
They do hiking. We did a mountain biking. Was so cool because I rode a bike in the woods, but this guy actually taught us care for the bike, where to go, how to put your pedals, how to pick a course, what all the signs meant. And those are just really cool things to help the kids be independent.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So much more than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So you worked at Disney.
I worked at Disney for 28 years.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
What is the secret to Disney? What do you think? I don't even know how to ask the right question.
That's a great question. And it's a question that comes up a lot. For me, my path with Disney, I started in hotel operations, and I started as a bellman. That was my first job at Disney. I got hired in. They were opening a brand new hotel, and I got hired in as a bellman at this hotel. And at the time I had just moved to Central Florida. I'd gone to school in Montana, and I was done with school and looking for a place to go. And a buddy of mine said, go to Central Florida. And I went down there and I got this job. And I'd never been to Disney before. So that one in itself was like, holy crud, look at this. And so I'm spending all this time in the parks and stuff. And then what you start to realize is everybody, at least on the front line, everybody's got to be happy. That's kind of a requirement to work at Disney. So in hotel operations, that's where people come to stay. When they come to Disney, yes, there's the park operations, and those people have a whole different experience than I did. But I think what comes together, the big part is you've got to be able to connect with people. Their big slogan is exceeding expectations. And so you've got to think in that realm when you're talking about dealing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people daily. You've got to exceed what they're looking for or what they want.
That's going to be difficult, Ben. Your expectations are pretty high for Disney World. When I go down there, I expect them to be great because, especially if you've been there before, the experience is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a frontline cast member, so now as a bellman, I did that for, 7-8 years. And then somebody convinced me to go into be a front desk manager. And that was my first really intro into here's what happens when you don't deliver on those expectations, because those people come back and let you know. and they don't spend a lot of time yelling at that person on the front desk. They want to talk to, it's the proverbial, I want to talk to your manager. Yeah. So that was my, that was my intro into what happens when you don't meet expectations. And through the years, I worked myself up to an area manager, an operations manager, and you get to that point where when you start holding other people accountable for not meeting expectations, but it gets drilled into you from the moment you like, as soon as you start with Disney, when I started anyway, you had what they call traditions, and it was 3 days of just guest service, traditions. Here's what Disney's all about. Here's what it was when it started. Here's what it is now. Here's where we want it to be. And they drill into you being a great guest service provider. So before you even start your job, you have to go through this training. And they still do a version of that now. And as you go through the years, there's always continual training, and it always comes back to that guest service stuff. And then there was a point in my career with working in hotel operations. Through the years as a bellman is one of those unionized positions. So I was very familiar with the union part of the operation. And when I became a manager, I got tapped into, hey, we've got a bellman or we've got a housekeeper, they've got a union issue. Can you talk to them? And so I would, just because I had a pretty good knowledge of where they were coming from. And I kept up with that just because when those issues would come up on a local level, you try to keep them from going in any sort of arbitration or anything like that, because it's not fun for anybody. But I kept up with it. And there was at one point, Disney, the company itself, at least in Florida, was going through contract negotiations with the unions, all the different unions. And they take their labor relations team that does that, and they take them into the negotiations. So they needed people to backfill for a little bit. And so they asked me for about 6 months if I would come in and handle some of those labor disputes between the company and the employees. So I did that for a little bit, and I had gotten out of operations for that time, and it was like, wow, this weight was lifted. And 20 years of having people just pound on you for a while, it can get on you. And so when I got out, I was like, oh, wow. And then I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. And so I was at an impasse, and a really good leader of mine, I love her to death. She's like, would you ever go into development? And I'm like, ops development. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. She goes, they're part of the team that designs and builds hotels for Disney. And I was like, I'd love that. So she goes, I have some guys want to talk to you. So I went and talked to these guys. I said, I don't know anything about architecture. So there's like, you've worked all these years in hotels, and I worked at several, and like, the ins and outs, what works in the hotels, what doesn't. We're trying to bring some of those design elements in the new hotels that we're building. I'm like, okay, count me in. So they brought me into that department, and that's how I ended my career at Disney. I spent the last 8-9 years, worked in the hotels in Shanghai. So I was in China quite a bit. I worked in Hong Kong a little bit, and then in California, and then mostly in Florida. And either we're building new hotels or we're refurbishing, rehabbing, adding on to. That's what I did for the last 10 years I worked at Disney.
So are they good to their employees? Like, because you see videos, and you're like, okay, is that a one-off?
You're putting me in a pigeonhole. So let me put it this way. When I first started with the company.
It's okay to work people hard.
No, it is. And when I first started working for the company, they had a robust program to celebrate the employees and take care of the employees. And they had a lot of cool perks for being an employee. The leadership changed at one point, and it really became about the bottom line. It was just about money. So the easiest thing to do when you're trying to cut money is to either fire people or cut benefits. Yeah. And so a lot of those perks, some of them went away. And it was rough for a little bit, but the company made a ton of money. So shareholders were happy, executives were happy. I think, and then again, leadership changed again. And some of that started coming back, and there was kind of an effort put into, let's make sure they're happy. Let's find ways to make our employees happy. Probably never get back to what we used to do, but let's find. And so I think by the time I left, they were at a point where they're trying to build up a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to compete with the perk of being able to go to Disney World for free, right? Your tickets are $150 plus for a day. Yeah. So if you have the ability to bring in family members and that stuff, and it used to be you could do it almost as much as you wanted, and they'd give you paper tickets that never expired. And now the tickets expire and you have limits, but you still have that ability to bring people to the parks. The holidays, they offer special days for the employees to come in and do stuff. some pretty decent discounts depending on how long you work for the company. So, I mean, there are still, one of the most things we took advantage of, and this is really after my wife and I got married, is when the Disney cruise got started, when they couldn't fill some of those 3-day cruises, like the week before, they'd send out emails. We're trying to fill them half off. You can go for a 3-day half off or whatever. It was crazy. And so we would just, for a weekend, we'd go and have a 3-day cruise and have the time of our life. And it was affordable. It was one of those things where, wow, this is actually affordable. And even though we don't work for Disney, we still do the Disney cruises just because our kids grew up with them. They love them. Even my college student, we just went on one this summer out of Europe and to Greece and Italy. It's a Disney cruise, and he still loves the Disney cruise.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you think it's kind of like a cult, or has it got away from that?
I don't know, and I don't ever think of it as a cult. I would think of it more as it was a neighborhood of people, a community of people who kind of shared some values, and that is, it's the most important thing is take care of the guests, make sure they're going to. I used to do a program where I'd go around and talk with mostly hotel employees, and we would have them answer questions about, okay, how much do you think it costs to book a plane ticket here? Let's say from the Midwest somewhere. And then we'd say, how much do you cost to just 5 days at a Disney hotel? And we'd even go moderate. We wouldn't even go to luxury hotels. And how much do you think it cost to get a meal package for Disney? And how much do you think it costs to do the ancillaries? Maybe you want to spend the day at SeaWorld or a day at Universal. And so, when you put that on paper and you have people look at it, and you're looking at vacations that cost 20 and 30 or more grand, depending on what you're doing, then it starts to hit home like, oh, yeah, okay, so we have a job to do. We have a job to take care of these people and make sure every aspect of their vacation here is worth that 20,000 or 30,000 or more. And it's, again, I go back to, they always talk about exceeding expectation. We've got to exceed what they want to think when they come here. So I don't think it was a cult. I think it was just a community of people who bought into this idea of creating the most magical place on earth.
Well, I knew some theater people that went down there. Mm-hmm. Just, I guess it was a good way to practice and to get involved and stuff like that. So,
and I that's what I went to school for. And so when I was there, I certainly ran into a lot of theater people, and a lot of them, that's how they got their feet wet, being characters or on stage.
You were in the hotel, so did anybody famous ever rent the whole hotel? Or?
Not the whole hotel, but when I first started, I started at the Yacht and Beach Club Hotel, which was one of their nicer ones. It's still one of my favorites. So, and I started as a bellman, and because I was a new employee, and bellman is one of those coveted jobs at the time because the tips were out of crazy, but I had to work the night shift. So I worked overnight, and a lot of celebrities, that's when they like to show up because they don't want to put up with a lot of hubbub. So, I'm this new guy at Disney, and I've been working there, I think 2 or 3 months, I want to say. And Joe, come here. You gotta get over here. We've got somebody, and I'm the only guy there at 11 o'clock at night and I get over there, and it's Suzanne Summers, and she needs to go through them. And I'm like, I grew up with Suzanne Summers. Wow. I'm of that age who I was infatuated with Suzanne Summers. So you can't imagine me standing there
wearing workout clothes.
No, but she still looked pretty great. And so that was my first. I would say that's my first celebrity that I ran into. But I never, and through the years, there's quite a few that we bumped into, but it never got to, not at least not a Disney hotel where they took over a Ho Hotel. There were examples. I used to work at the Contemporary Hotel, and there were times when there's a certain floor in the Contemporary that's kind of all suites. It's weird how it's set up because it's a very old hotel, and they would take the floor of suites maybe, but it never got to the point where any celebrity took the whole hotel.
Yeah,
so
we had a hotel room. We lucked out with. It was Georgia played in the national championship in Indianapolis. And I don't know how, but I guess somebody has to get that room. We got the room right off the elevator. And on the other side, there was only about 6 rooms, but they were all suites. And at the bottom of our hotel was where all the concerts were.
Okay.
So they were having and these are big name bands.
Yeah.
And right there was that's where they would just hang out. When they were waiting on their set, nobody ended up spending the night, but they were all in and out. And there was just one little guy there that was just kind of sitting there. And I don't know, it was really cool to have that whole thing and to see all the bands coming in and out and party. And then, when we came back, it was funny. After winning the championship, we were like, the card's not there. Let's go see if they're there.
Yeah.
And all the rooms were open and nobody was in there, but they had all the food.
Yeah. Sure.
all of it was just in all these suites. And we went through and ate and grabbed all their energy drinks.
Yeah,
And
sure. That was
that
the
was
beauty
funny.
of working the third shift as well, at least for Bellman, is the Young Beach Club had a convention center, and they'd have these big groups come in, and when they'd leave at night, one thing you learn in a hotel is you get to know the general manager's secretary, and you get to know the chef. Those are the two people you get to know when you work in a hotel. And I would always do that. Somebody told me that along the way. Anyway, so at overnight, when all the banquets, were done and everything, they bring in all this food back to the kitchen, and they have plates and plates of food that never got touched. And so I'm going back there, and they've got steaks, and they've got fish, and they've got all these beautiful things set up. And like, come here, you can have a little bit, have this, or we're just going to toss it out anyway. So there for a while, a short time, when I down there working overnight, I was eating like a king, but it was in the middle of the night. But it was like
every
eating like a king.
night.
Absolutely, it was amazing.
That'd be great.
So there were some perks.
Yeah. So are you retired? What? Are you working now? So you left from Florida retired, and that's when you moved to Peachtree City?
Yeah, my wife got offered a dream job with Delta, and it had to be one of those types of jobs where, because she knew I was getting close to 30 years, and I had actually figured I was going to be there closer to 40, 50 maybe, and this position came up, and she's just like, we got to talk. And so we did. We spent probably a good week and a half just back and forth, pros and cons. And finally, it's like, she goes, I think if we do this, you're probably going to need to take a year off anyway, just to get the kids acclimated, and let's get them settled in schools and get the house where, because, inevitably when you get into a new house, your wife wants to change everything. So It was just one of those things where, let's do this, take a year to do this. And we're like, okay, that's fine. I'll take a year off. And that year just turned into, why don't you just retire? And I have other things. So, I was doing woodworking for a little bit. I grew up with that with my grandfather. So I could do that quite a bit, do a lot of work around the house. And then, things in the community, I started volunteering at my grant school and did a lot of that. And then there's a position that came up with the city, with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They have a board of directors, and there was a position that came up for that. And my wife's like, it's right up your alley. I mean, that's what you've done. And so I was like, okay. So I went and interviewed and got on the board, and fortunate enough, they picked me as chairman. So the last 2 years I've been chairman of the Convention and Visitors Bureau board of directors, which has been great in Peachtree City. So been able to share some of that Disney knowledge and experience, hotel experience really, and banquets and conventions and meetings with that team that runs that right now. So
wow. And so now that moves you into, is this your first trying out politics? So my friends that know me know that I don't do politics. I don't enjoy it. It is what it is. I think we briefly talked about this. I don't like either side. So guys just don't feel as genuine. So what made you want to get into politics, and how are you different?
That's a great question. I kind of share your same perspective. I'm not really I follow politics, but I'm not into politics. I don't, it's one of those things where I loved what I was doing with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, because it gives me kind of insight into the city and how parts of it are run. And this was coming up, and I knew there was a couple of vacancies, and I'm just like, I've never been one to complain a lot about things. I've always been one, and there are different reasons for this through my life. Like, if you see something wrong, try to fix it, try to change it. So there's a couple of things in the last year or so, and then I'm just like, man, why did it have to get to this, or why did it have to get to that? And I'm like, I don't know if I can make a change, but I'd love to be part of the solution of trying to avoid.
So what's the biggest thing that, like, if I do one thing, if I'm there, what's the term? Is it a 2 or 4 or 10
It's
years?
a 4-year term.
So 4 years. At 4 years, if you get nothing else done, what would you like to see?
I think there's a story that brings me back to when I first moved to Peachtree City. I think we talked a little bit. I had my knees replaced, right? So I'm at Kroger, and I'm got my walker, and I'm trying to get on the little electric cart. And I finally managed to do this. And this lady just comes up to me, and she goes, I'm going to pray for you that you heal and don't have any more issues with your legs. I've never met this lady. I've only lived here maybe a year. And she just comes up and tells me this. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, that's probably one of the coolest things that I think ever happened to me. And I'm like, that told me this is the right community for us to live in. And so that stuck with me. And Peachtree City has always resented that community feel. And so as I started looking into more things about how this, because they talked about the golf cart paths and all that stuff, and so just for out of curiosity more than anything, I started digging into how the city started and what the founders, that how they got going and where this concept of this whole village thing came from. And it always came back to community. And so this is what I loved about Peachtree City. And so in this past year, maybe a little bit more, there just seems to be things that have come up that are putting people on different perspectives. And I don't really like that, because I like community. I like Peachtree City as one community, not as a divided community. And there's a bunch of things. And I think as the course goes through it, you're going to hear those of us who are running, we're going to hit on the same things, all going to talk about the same issues. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be to the path that we get to solve them. For me, though, I really just believe we're better off doing this as a whole, as a community, than having somebody up here saying, do it my way.
Right.
And I don't want to go and say, do it my way. I want to say, I'm listening to you. I want to hear what you have to say. And I know it's not going to be always maybe what I want to hear. My wife calls it, she has a term for it, I can't think right now, but she is one of those people, like I am, who believes in differences of opinion, because that's how you come to a solution sometimes. Sam Adams had this great quote that differences of opinion shouldn't be construed as differences of principle.
Right.
And I think if we keep that in mind, that we all have the same principle, we have the same goal, that we can probably get to where we need to go. Might have to take different paths than we're comfortable to, but I think we can get there. And so for me, as I see a city get divided by sometimes superficial things, I'm like, I don't want Peachtree City to be like that. I want my kids to grow up here. I want them to move back here maybe and live here. I want them to raise their kids. And I want that community feel that I felt that first year when this lady told me she's going to pray for me. Yeah. I want them to have that experience, because I love that experience. And that's what I want him to have as well.
So do you think you did your research into the founding fathers, if you will? Do you think they'd be proud? Well, some of them are still alive, right? I think one of them just passed away.
Yes, there might be one or two still around. Yeah.
Do you think they'd be proud of where we are today, right now? What Peachtree City is right this moment? That's hard to answer.
Some of it, but not all of it. No,
yeah. You can't imagine somebody that's founding something like this. I don't think they can imagine how big it has become and how cherished of a city it is.
At first, this was projected to be an 80 to 100,000 person community, and in '85 they got changed down to about 45. So we're getting close to that. But what I think they'd like, for the most part, yes. I think when you go down McDuff from 54 and where Kedron is, and you head down that part of town till you get back to 54, I think they'd be disappointed on how all the trees got cleared out and all those homes got be put in, and they left out the green spaces, they left out the recreational opportunities, they left out the what's supposed to be small commerce and those types of areas, those community things, community places to gather, that all got left out.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody really wants to see a lot of growth in Peachtree City. I just don't. And I don't know that I do either. The problem with that is development coming, and I know this coming from Central Florida, because if it isn't paved, it will be soon down there. They got a lot of money, and they find ways of getting that money into people who make decisions. And so you do your best to fight it off. When you can't, then hopefully as somebody who's in city council, you can directly influence what that development looks like. Yeah. And for me, my in-laws live in Crestwind and they love it there, and it's been great for them. And it's a really nice community as well, but they have a clubhouse and then it's just homes. And yes, they're planting trees there, but when I look at my house and I look at your house, these houses got built with trees left in place. Like they didn't just raise it all down and build houses. So they were smart about how they did the development. They kept a lot of this green space. When you talk about the founding manifest that came to this, green space was a big part of it. Recreation was a huge part of it. Small business was a big part of it in these little community settings. And I think the founders would say, 70% of Peachtree City has hit that mark on that. There's parts of it that haven't. And, I'd be lying too if I said, it's all 100% great. But I want it to be 100% great. But I think there should have been more work done, especially on that part of the western part side there, where they could have incorporated more of that village feel.
Yeah.
So,
And we've talked about this because traveling a little bit with soccer, we're not playing travel soccer, but when we were doing lacrosse, and when I go to other cities, Kennesaw and anywhere else, their park where we go to play soccer is somewhere you could take your family if you didn't have a soccer game.
Mhm.
And that astounds me that they have that much green space over there, and the playground is crap.
mhm.
They don't ever run the concession stand. Like, no, I don't know anybody that would ever go there if you did not have a game. You're there when your game starts and you leave the second their game over. I feel sorry for anyone that comes here for a travel game and has to figure out what to do with your 5-year-old in between a 2-hour gap, because you got a tiny little playground. And this might just be my own personal preference. I just love going somewhere where there is big walking paths and there's multiple playgrounds that are really cool. And I know we haven't redid this new one, which my kids were over the age when they did it, so I don't know if it's good, but it's just not in one place. So I agree as far as green spaces. I think as far as family things people share, we are way behind a lot of places.
And we are, and it's not just for kids, but it's multi-generational. You know, I had this conversation actually just recently with my kid who's in Kennesaw, but he was, went to school in McIntosh and Booth here. And I'm like, Jack, what is it you wish you had? And he goes, it's nothing for kids like me to do here. Because my age, you go to Battery Park and you make out. That's what you do. And so
how old is he?
He's 19 now,
19,
but
okay.
he finished his first year in
gap
Kennesaw.
in between.
But they would take their golf carts out, they ride them, which I love the fact they can have the autonomy to do that. But there was nothing for them to go do.
Right.
Like they would go to Walmart and walk around. They go to Target, walk around, and the Battery Park and things like that. But there's no community activity thing for them to do. And he started rattling off, you should have this, you should have this, you should have this. And he's right. And so when we have opportunities like that, and I think about the Pack, you're right, beautiful, beautiful fields down there, and they built, was amazing. But like you, my kid, Jack, was in soccer, he traveled soccer, and Grant came along when he was littler. And when you're that age, when you're 6, 7, 8, you don't want to sit there and watch a soccer game. It's boring to you. You want to go play. You want to do something else. And so, it'd have been great to have a playground wherever we went to have that set up. And some places
barely
did.
Seating area there.
Yeah.
Like to watch the game, you feel like you're cramped in a tiny, like it's not even.
Yeah. I hope that I'm hopeful.
I don't know how you change that because
I'm hopeful
I know it's
it will.
swampy around it.
Because, I'm hopeful that it will, because with U.S. Soccer coming in the area now, I know that from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, man, they've jumped on that, trying to gain some opportunity.
They're doing that in Fayetteville. I know that their stuff is all over the fields.
They're in Fayetteville. That is true. But I don't know if you've been to the McCready Fields anytime lately, but the fields at Pack are this, and those are up there. They've got some work to do over there.
Yes, but they've redone one of the fields, and it has U.S. Soccer all over it.
Yes.
And it's now.
Yes.
But it's one out of the 25 fields.
Yes.
But my point, I asked somebody, I was like, is that just because the soccer fields are Fayetteville? Are they going to come? And they're like, they're supposed to, but they wanted to do Fayetteville first. I don't know if it's a slow drip.
I think it came, that's where the land was, and that's where the space was. So it falls in Fayetteville, and it seems right that with
it's still our county.
It is. There's opportunity for us to get some of that over here. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, man, they went from 2 years ago hardly having anything booked to now they've got to compete with their own recreation team for baseball fields because they're bringing baseball tournaments in like 10 or 12 now they've got booked, and where we didn't have that before. So there's probably going to have to be some, I think they're talking about, making sure that all the fields are lit now, and maybe not all of them were at the time, but now they're all going to be, and making sure that, hey, if we're going to start bringing people here, we got to make sure we can accommodate them in a lot of different ways. And I think your points are valid. That we've got to look at that.
I got a good friend, Jeremy Hyde, works with me. He's big into softball with his little girls. And he says there's nothing here. Like there's no cages. There's no true, he travels, so he sees all this. But I think that Fayette County would want to hold themselves to the same standard as a Kennesaw towards all these.
I think we're going to try to get there.
Other places that are
we
really
have
doing
fields
it.
like Mead Field down there as well. You know, there's softball
And that's
fields
growing.
down
Little
there.
Cross is getting better.
Yeah, lacrosse, but they have the softball fields, and they got some softball fields at the Pack. But I think where there wasn't kind of a lot of attention to bringing a lot of that into Peachtree City over the past 2 years, now there is.
Yeah.
And, you know, along with that comes hotel rooms and comes commerce and all that other stuff. So there's been a big push, I know, from the CVB to get these groups to come to Peachtree City. And they're doing a great job on doing some of that.
So what about the pickleball? Because we have not hesitated in spending money on bringing tremendous amount of pickleball courts here.
So you know,
we have a lot of pickleball.
There's, if I don't have you did you go to any of these city council meetings at all?
I
Like
don't.
So I started going.
I would go crazy.
Yeah, I started going a couple of years ago, and to in their defense, they show up at every single meeting and they talk. They use a lot of
The
time.
pickleball people do.
Yeah, and they use a lot of time in the public comments to talk about their desire to have more pickleball. So they did what they're supposed to do. They're saying we have a need,
Yeah.
and it may not be a large majority of people, but they've been very vocal about it,
Yeah.
and so they're gonna draw your attention to that, and so they accomplished that. I think it is a fast growing. It's a professional sport now.
Yeah.
So and even
It's fun.
even Atlanta has
I don't
a
play a
professional
lot, but I do
pickleball
like
team.
it.
So, and I do because it's my speed after having knee
Yeah.
replacements. It's more my speed. So I think what it is they're filling a need because there's a need for pickleball. They've been talking about this for several years during city council meetings, and they've been very consistent showing up and expressing their interest and what they need.
So Jeremy, there's the key. Show up at the city council. Be prepared.
You get
have
you
people.
can just get on people's calendars. I mean, we have a huge recreation department and the entertainment team, and they just got to hear what you want. And I think that goes back to listening to your community. You just got to hear what the people want. So if softball's the next thing, let's get it done. Show up. You get 3 minutes at a city council meeting to talk about anything you want, other than what maybe what's on the
But
agenda.
you ain't gonna get it done just coming to one and speaking for one.
You're
3
not.
minutes.
You got to be persistent.
Persistent.
And that's the way it works sometimes, is persistence. And if you're passionate about it, that'll come out.
Okay. So let's go back to the election. This election for city council is it November? Is that when?
November 4th, I believe.
November 4th. So I understand typically there's not a huge turnout for these type of elections, correct? Any idea why?
I don't.
I'm sure there's been studies.
I try to learn all these numbers. There's a lot of numbers to learn,
Yeah.
and there's not. I think what I saw the last one, which was the city council one, like 41% of the voters in Peachtree City showed up for this.
I don't think that's high. I wouldn't have thought it was high.
Maybe. In my opinion, we should be. Some people look at it as a chore, kind of like jury duty, but for me, it's a small price to pay to have what we have in this country and what we have in Peachtree City, quite frankly. And to vote it barely takes any of your time. I mean, you can vote early, you can vote by mail. You know, it's not that you have to go stand there for hours to vote.
See, I don't think that is the obstacle.
No, what is it?
I think the obstacle is they don't know enough. They don't know you enough
True.
to make a decision.
True.
If they go to one meeting would be the most anybody would do. And they're just going to hear the fluff and yes, I want to save the parks and I want to save the cats and the seals. And, and they don't they need to spend you think of a national election, it's crammed down your throat on TV. You're seeing debates and all that stuff. And one, I don't know if people want to bring that stress because it is a high stress environment, but I think they just don't know the people. They don't know which one to vote for, and they don't want to make a mistake, or they don't want to spend the time. And I agree, they should, because I think it's more important in your local community than
I think probably the way to look at this is, I like the change in the last couple of years of trying to get the community more involved in the decisions that the city makes. So when it comes to like SPLOST money, this was community driven. It was really a group of community members came together, did a lot of polling, did a lot of conversations with neighbors and friends and people in the community, and they came up with this list, and it got vetted and it got presented to the city council. So they were involved with that. The budget was a very similar thing. I mean, there's a lot of community involvement. So I think if the community got more involved in these opportunities to be involved with how the decisions are made, then they become more educated about who's making those decisions and who wants to make those decisions or be involved in that. Then I think then you have a vested interest. I think my involvement with getting in with the Convention and Visitor Bureau was a volunteer role on the board, but man, that exposed me to a lot.
Yeah.
And that really was part of, so I see another venue where I can help, or at least help make a change. So that's what kind of got me here as well. So if the community gets involved on the opportunities we can, they should. And I really think we have, if you're a city council member, you're on that board or that council, we should be finding more ways for people to get involved. It's our city. The city's really for the people and it's run by the people. So the people should be helping with the decisions about the city. So any town halls, I know it sounds kind of hokey and, but those are great just resources for people to go to and hear what's going on. Listening sessions, whether it's online or in person, there's a lot of ways to get the community involved. And I think once you get them involved with what's going on, then they'll get a better understanding of who's influencing those decisions.
Yeah. I think it would just take a lot of time. I think in the last election, I don't even know what that was, but I feel like they had some things at Lion Creek, which, just because how can we interact where you're not, like I have attention span problems, but I can sit and drink a beer and listen to you. I want to know more about your personality. I can tell a lot about you by having a conversation about sports than I can about you telling me what your politics are. Because I'm the same way. One thing we've gotten is we don't trust politics.
You tell me what kind of beer you like, and I can probably tell you how well we're going to get along.
Oh, that's not good. Don't ask me that question.
Because I'm involved.
Nobody likes me based on the beer I select.
Well, you don't think that. I bet.
I have my reasons.
I bet we find common ground in beer. So.
No. It's a joke because I'm the one. I still drink Bud Light, and that's what I love. Everybody I know that even the least passionate beer drinkers are disgusted by Bud Light. Not because of the politics of it, just because it's watered down. But I'm like, but that's what I like. Because I only drink when I can drink 6 beers. I
think that's where you have to look at it. You have to find what you like.
Right.
I drank Bud Light for a long time. And somebody, it was along and this has to go back to Disney. We were in Epcot going drinking around the world, and we go into the British pub, and somebody's like, "You ever had a harp?" I'm like, "I've never had a harp." Pour this lad a glass of harp, and I drank that, and I'm like, "That is fantastic. Why have not been drinking that?"
Exist anymore.
I know. So then it became, I'm like, "Well, are there other beers like this?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "You ever had a Smithwick?" I'm like, "I've never had a Smithwick." Okay, I'm like, oh. And then, so that kind of and then when the craft beer craze came along, I'm like, well, I've got to try this stuff. Yeah. And, I became a big fan of IPAs. I like dark beers. But there are those days that you're sitting by the pool or you're sitting on a beach, a Bud Light does what it does.
I'm odd because I love Guinness. I love Black and Tans. I love Smittix. I hate everything in between. I hate all those IPAs. And why do I want to risk a new taste on a new beer?
I don't think it's
okay. So give me a Bud Light. I know what it's going to taste like.
I don't think it's a new taste, but I would look at it like, do you only eat one kind of ice cream?
No.
You eat different kinds of ice cream, don't you? Okay. You don't have to just drink one kind of beer. And so that's what kind of got me in that realm. I like IPA. I don't like all IPAs, but I like a lot of the IPAs. I'm trying to get into sours, but it's not working right now for me. I'm just like, oh. So I'm not there with all the craft beers, but I like that there's a variety now. So.
I do like that. I love breweries. I love Lion Creek. I wish, when we talk about things that this city's missing, Lion Creek is kind of one of the only places you can go grab a beer and just sit outside.
Yep.
There's no pressure to order food. I can sit there for 5 hours.
Absolutely.
And they encourage it.
Yep.
You go to a restaurant and they were like, do you want something?
They're looking at you.
What are you doing here? I'm like, we're just drinking beer.
Yep.
And I think I would love to see more of that.
I would too. I really, and I wish they had more space over there because the bus barn in Fayetteville is
awesome.
Taking your kids and all that stuff.
You know where there's space. And I told Rebecca, you're probably not listening, but they're tearing down Partners Pizza.
They are.
Partners Pizza is going to be at the bottom.
Yep.
You know what's right in the middle of that parking lot?
The farmer's market?
What's in the middle?
I don't know.
A big green space, pine trees.
Oh, on the other side.
In the middle. So you got, it's a circle. The parking lot is a circle.
Right.
In the middle is pine trees
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, you're right.
it's not
Okay.
used for anything. I told Rebecca, I was like, why is that not a beer garden? Why are you not selling beer right there every
You
Saturday?
think that would work at the farmer's market? I mean,
It has nothing to do with the farmer's market. It's Partners Pizza that wheels a cooler of beer out there. Hey, go in there and order your pizza and sit out here.
oh, you're talking about, okay.
It'd be Partners Pizza.
yeah.
They own the land. I'm like, why would you not have that's how awesome would that be? You go to the
Sounds
farmer's
great
market,
to
you
me.
come in there and sit.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah. We went to, I want to say it was somewhere up in Kennesaw for a lacrosse tournament. And we went and just grabbed something to drink and just happened to find ice cream and sat. And there was a huge park right next to a huge beer garden and it was all right there. And I was like, this is the best Sunday of my life. Like the kids ran and played and I listened to music. And
what's the place in LaGrange? Is it New Realm that's in LaGrange? They have the same type of setup, similar to the bus barn, but a big open area, kids and all that stuff. So I'm with you. I think those are places that we could definitely use more of.
Yeah.
And then not just because I like to drink beer, but because I meet a lot of people out there at these times, and even here in Peachtree City, I'm meeting people there all the time to sit there, and I like the beer that they have, and I like the atmosphere that they have. Because you're right, they're not trying to push you out the door; they want you to hang out and just have a great time.
And I think because of the Bible Belt, people are just now getting over. This is my opinion. Just now getting over the association of drinking a beer around a kid. Almost like that was taboo when I was growing up, or if you saw it. And now I'm like, I drink a beer in front of my son. It allows me to teach him responsibility and obviously not driving, but also just not over drinking. And so I think you have in this community a lot of the people that are older and retired that are fighting the younger people that want to stay here, but they want to be able to go drink some beer somewhere. They want the new pubs and the new this. And the old people are like, no, we don't want traffic and we don't. But we'll give me a TJ Maxx. I'm like, I'll go to Riverdale for TJ Maxx. Give me a nice.
So it's an interesting conundrum that we have here in that we have a pretty decent population of aging adults because thanks to science and technology, we live longer, right? Yeah. So they certainly have a bigger population, and our youth is a pretty decent sized population now too. So yeah, we're finding that they don't always meld, and so finding the way to appease everybody like that is tough. Yeah. And that is one thing.
And the middle's gone. I know that Dan had a summit probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago with all the businesses trying to figure out they can't attract young employees because people don't want to live here when they're 22 and 23 out of college. They don't want to live here because it's
not a ton to do.
There's nothing to do for them. And I think that's the rub. You kind of got to, because we all do love, we love this community because it's family oriented. It is extremely safe.
Yep.
So, be careful what you ask for and probably.
Maybe there's a trade-off with that. I don't know. I love the fact that you leave your key in your golf cart and it's still sitting in your driveway.
Isn't that crazy?
And, I grew up in rural Wyoming where you didn't lock your doors and you didn't, you left the keys in your car and that type of thing. So you go through that realm and then finally come back here where, we're not there yet, but this community is so incredibly safe. I mean, one of the top 10 in Georgia, I guess, is what I hear. But it just, I don't fret a lot when my older son would take the golf cart out on his own to go visit his buddies wherever they were, even if and I live in Smoke Rise and he wants to go to Battery Park or wherever, I didn't fret a lot because I have a lot of confidence in the safety of this city. So, that's a good point to bring up. But what's the trade-off of that is, do we not have those areas where sometimes they can go and hang out, that type of thing? But I love living in a safe community.
Yeah, I do. I guess if I had to choose, that is what I'm choosing.
Yep.
So, we're getting close to a full episode here.
Okay.
I would love for you to just, anything else you want to say about, I hate to be so cheesy as to why you should vote for me, but there's got to be something that's so important to you or whatever you're passionate about or why you're doing it is probably the biggest explanation.
At the end of the day, you've got to find somebody you trust and to believe in, right? And You may not know me. You may not know the other candidates that are running. So the first thing you need to do is get online or get somewhere and learn about who's running. It's the most important thing. Find out where they stand. Find out what they're saying. Are they saying anything of substance, or are they saying anything of fluff? I think you'll find there's going to be exact same messages from all of us. You're going to talk about 74-54. They're going to talk about growth. They're going to talk about safety. So find who's got that message that aligns with you. I hope it's me. I've got some great ideas, I think. I've got some great core people that are helping me get this thing going. So if it's me, please vote for me. But the other thing is get out and vote, or at least go through the effort of learning who's running and why they're running. And I think from that point, that's where you find out, okay, that's the guy I want. That's the guy I'm going to vote for. That's the guy I want to stay in touch with. If he wins, I want to stay in touch with him, because that's important too. Once somebody gets in office, there's got to be accessibility to those people. You got to be able to talk with them and share ideas. And so do your research, do your work, find who's right. If it's me, great, but at least go out and vote.
So they can have an influence on 54-74. We talk about that. That's a huge.
Yeah.
I think the state's involved in.
I think right now
thing,
probably not.
Is that ship sailed?
Well, DOT's, they're in the middle of a multi-million-dollar, 19, I think I heard was the last number project. So I don't think it's realistic to think they're going to turn right around and come invest a bunch more millions to redo it or change it. So they've got to let this one finish. So next summer, I think they're supposed to be done. And then
got to live with it for 10 years.
They've got to assess how well it works. I don't know if it's going to be 10 years. I hope it's not 10 years. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to, what they're doing now. I don't know what that influence is going to have on the congestion. So I don't know that there is things we can do, though. You have a 3/4 of a mile where you have 6 stoplights. That's crazy. And you can't, it's hard to fight congestion when you got 6 stoplights in 3/4 of a mile, right, and they're not synced. There's no synchronicity between them. You got to think about the businesses that are going in up there, what kind of traffic they're going to control, what they're bringing. I know everybody loves to have Trader Joe's. Everybody wants Trader Joe's. I'm not convinced that was the right place for it in the avenue, because
no one does.
That's going to be a nightmare to deal with. Shopping carts in the parking lot that it's not big enough to fit the amount of cars they need now. And
that's one thing that is not, I never thought about that. Because there are no shopping carts for that whole thing.
No.
So now do the spaces have to be bigger because
there's not enough spaces? There's not enough parking there as it is. And if you go up there on the weekend, it's impossible.
But they're building the parking deck on top. Did you see that, man?
That was April Fool's.
April Fool's. I talked to somebody literally a month ago, and they thought they were really doing that.
No,
that's I was like, could you imagine?
I don't believe that fits. I don't think that's within the building code of Peachtree City anyway. So I have concerns about that. Like, was that the right? Yes, I'd like having Trader Joe's coming. There's probably a better location for it. I'm not in that decision process, but I had the opinion that there
great location is that dang furniture store nobody goes to. Like, how's that even in business? And if it by itself, like, police department, can y'all investigate that place? Because I've never seen a car in a parking lot.
I think there were some probably. So that's one of the things I think is going to contribute to more congestion, because we're bringing that very, very popular place there. So I think we have to be smart about what
that's going to pull people from all over.
Yes,
not just Coweta, because there's not another one south I-20.
Yeah, no, there's not. So,
and I know I drive to Atlanta just to go to Trader Joe's. I have before.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it's gonna add to what everybody's already complaining about. Even the people who want Trader Joe's, it's gonna add to work. So we got to be smarter about what's going in and around there. Got to be smarter about how the traffic flow. And quite frankly, I think there's probably a broader traffic study that needs to have. With all this focus is put on 74-54, and we need to look at Peachtree City as a whole, really. And there might be other choke points. There might be other opportunities. I feel for the people in Planterra. I think the knee jerk is to put a gate in there. That really doesn't fit within Peachtree City itself. But I know that they're trying to do something to mitigate the traffic going through there, and I feel for them. I don't know that that's the answer, but it's not.
Kedron Hills can put up a gate to block golf carts. I know they took it down. That's another thing.
They opened that up, and that's another. But another thing that just divided people.
Yeah, exactly.
And it shouldn't
for
have.
No reason.
It shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are just opinions of mine, and if they align with what people think, then I think there's more conversations to be had.
That's awesome. Well, you're absolutely easy to talk to, as genuine as the conversation that I've had. And
Thank you, man.
Again, I don't do politics. I didn't know you before today, but I think I would enjoy having a beer with you.
You and I will definitely have beers together.
That'd be awesome.
All right.
Not at a camp out because we don't.
Not at a camp
we
out.
don't.
So absolutely. Thank you. This was awesome. I really enjoyed this.
You're welcome. And so where do they find
Campbell for the number 4 PTC.com. And that's the easiest place for you to find my info.
Okay. And I love, so y'all were at the farmer's market. You had a bunch of people at the farmer's market
did.
this past weekend. I'm sure politicians normally do that, but the type of people that you had there, I didn't even connect it. I don't know if they told you. I didn't even connect it. I was like, I don't want to talk to a politician. And then when he said Boy Scouts, he's like, he's into Boy Scouts. I was like, wait, I wonder if that's the same guy.
Yeah.
And then I asked him and it was connected, but they were great. They were just nice. They weren't
They're my
talking
neighbors.
politics. They were just talking to people about their dogs and hello, and they just happened to have a shirt on.
They're my neighbors,
Yeah.
and I love
That was
them.
great. Yeah, that was awesome. All right.
Good.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Go out and vote. You probably have to
Yes.
register or something like that.
You should already be registered, I would hope. So, but if you're not, get registered.
Yeah. Big election coming up in 3 years, too. So
Yep.
Get ready for that one. So, all right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Some days are non-stop. You blink and suddenly it's 4 p.m., you've skipped lunch, and you're just trying to make it to dinner without crashing. That's exactly the moment when I reach for my buddy David.
Come on now.
David protein bars are made for moments like that. They're packed with 28 grams of protein, just 150 calories, and absolutely zero sugar.
Guys,
Are you having a David day? Sterling?
I'm having a David day today.
Yeah.
There's one in the backpack right now. I'm about to pound it with some water.
What's that flavor?
It's
What's that
vanilla.
flavor?
It's
Vanilla.
the vanilla joint, and it tastes good, right? Because a lot of these things are sort of chalky and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
this
no.
thing tastes good.
I look forward to it.
Right after the workout, if I put one down, like I feel my muscles. I feel strong like Popeye.
Yeah.
You guys
Yes.
understand
Thank
what
you.
I'm telling
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what it is. If you're a sensory person, but they got these little crispy, crunchy
Yeah, they've got like a
balls
little
in
They
them.
do.
crunchy.
And
Yes,
they got that
pause.
little crunch.
Yes.
Little crunch.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
I dig it.
Well, most protein bars are candy bars in disguise,
Right.
but David is different. With 75% of its calories coming from protein, it's one of the highest protein to calorie ratios you will find anywhere.
come on.
Plus, gotta say, the packaging is iconic. The ingredients are clean,
Yeah.
and the flavors are so good. I am a peanut butter girly for life, so
Yeah.
anything peanut butter
feel you.
is
Yeah.
gonna be my jam.
As soon as you pull one out, people are like, that looks expensive.
It's
classy
It just
packaging.
looks fancy.
Yeah.
It's good. David is ideal for people looking to increase protein, cut sugar, and manage calorie intake. That's why I always have David protein bars with me. David is offering our listeners a deal to buy 4 cartons and get the 5th free at davidprotein.com/thatwasus. That's davidprotein.com/thatwasus to get your 5th carton free.